Welcome to TPIM SR Live. I'm your host, TruePowerIsMine. Today I want to do a very powerful show. It's an article written by Mark from Anaheim. I want to cite the source, but it's so telling. Please listen up. Peace.
It was the White Supremacy Industrial Complex. The source for this article is Mark from Anaheim. The White Supremacy Industrial Complex. Today, June 4, 2019, the following was posted on one of my Facebook (FB) sites related to Black history. 400 years later, and Black people think that white people are gonna have a change of heart. It was originally posted by someone named Timothy Clement on a FB site entitled True Positive Black Images They Never Show You, before being shared by Anthony R. Watson on one of my FB sites. Note, Anthony R. Watson, not the U.S. Army officer with the same name, and others have posted such bigoted garbage in the past which I simply refuted deleted. However, since Anthony R. Watson chose to not only post this garbage in a public forum, but also personally attack me before blocking me, I will not redact his name. I would have immediately deleted that FB post, since I do not tolerate misogyny bigotry, regardless who the person is, on any of my FB sites. However, I kept it long enough so that others could see just how ignorant and bigoted some blacks can also be. I have redacted the names of someone who shared a rational response. Below are the responses before I deleted the entire thread. Michael B. Parler. I have discussed this type of mentality many times while appearing on air, as I did back in year 2017. Many blacks are quick to cite white people as all being bigoted racist. I have been fighting bigotry and misogyny for most of my life. Yet, when I needed money to graduate from college, no black on-campus off-campus organization helped me. It was decent white folks, some whom I have never met, who provided me with the money I needed to complete my last year of college. When racist white College of Charleston students tried to have me expelled, no black student organizations ever came to my assistance. It was decent white students who came to my assistance. The same was true during my United States Marine Corps (USMC) career and my Los Angeles Police Department (LAPD) career, where fellow blacks did nothing for me, and some even hoped that I would get fired. It was always decent white folks who came to my aid when there were racist USMC LAPD whites trying to get me fired. Meanwhile, I challenge anyone to name me just one so-called successful black person in this nation who did not have help from some white person. Michael B. Parler, February 13, 2013 on The Carl Nelson Show, 12:14:50 a.m. Washington, D.C. Anthony R. Watson, you are the embodiment of white privilege, white entitlement, and white supremacy. I'm sure there are some white pages you can post on. Michael Brown Parler, Anthony R. Watson, white privilege. I know what it is like not to be able to drink out of a public water fountain and not be able to go to a public swimming pool beach. While some people talk loudly saying nothing on websites, I have sacrificed 2 careers and I have had at least 3 attempts on my life because I refuse to tolerate racism and misogyny. Black folks love to talk about the Underground Railroad, but usually omit the fact that the Underground Railroad would have never succeeded, had decent white folks, some who were murdered, had not assisted escaping black slaves. Redacted. Therein lies the rub, as it were. To believe that all white people are racist is not factual, and or logical. To believe none are racist is also not factual, and or logical. To fully believe either or exclusively could lead to the detriment of some. Redacted. To believe all whites are racists in practice is irrational. Whites are, however, inherently prejudiced towards black people in this country. Something has to occur in those people to trigger that prejudice, which results in racism. In regards to the initial post saying, 400 years later, white folks want to have blacks in this country to depend on them. It perpetuates their superiority complex and alleged dominion over black people, which is why they don't endeavor to have a change of heart. That is their inherent prejudice at work, no change of heart. The Roman theory of divide and conquer comes into play with that white assistance for a particular black person who is given that assistance from whites. It makes that particular person sour on his own people, thereby causing a dividing wedge, thus succeeding in conquering the perception of his own people. Redacted. Isn't white a legal status set up by the pale kind of man ruling elite Europeans during the mid to late 1800s as another divide and conquer strategy? People classified as white, especially the pale kind of man ethnic stock of Europe, have been socialized and conditioned by very effective brainwashing, and with their prejudice plus ill-gotten power manifest in acts of racist terrorism across this globe. Decent legally classified individual, white, folk that have capital to practice philanthropy, and organizations that have capital and resources then designate which individual or several black people get funding doesn't convince me otherwise. We have no friends, as Dr. Clark said. Are there exceptions, perhaps? For my personal safety, mind, body, soul, falling into that F isn't sound. Today there is an entire money-making industry out there that does nothing but talk about white supremacy. I call it the white supremacy-industrial-complex. Russia continues a program called Blackmanistan. It is a direct effort to recruit black gang members, black militants in the U.S., to train them abroad. Upon return to the U.S., these individuals are supposed to create chaos and havoc. Sometimes when I appear on political talk radio shows, there will be callers who sound as individuals who have been influenced by Russian targeted propaganda, as all they ever talk about is white supremacy. White supremacy is a term I refuse to use because I do not consider whites, or anyone else, to be supreme, just as I never use the term superior officer. Because the fact someone may have outranked me in the U.S. Armed Forces did not necessarily mean that she was superior to me. Words have power. By using that term, white supremacy, one is actually giving power to those some claim to be criticizing. When I first began appearing on political talk radio shows in 1992, I was often attacked on air by fellow blacks because I shared history rather than his story. I debunked such urban legends as the Willie Lynch Papers. President of Congress was John Hanson, who was black. Consequently, the first U.S. president was a black man, and Dr. Charles Drew, a black man, invented the technique for blood transfusion. Ironically, he died after needing such a transfusion as the result of a traffic collision. However, a North Carolina hospital refused him admission because he was black. Debunking such urban legends stepped on the toes of black folks making lots of money in the white supremacy-industrial-complex. Unlike the black folks making money in the white supremacy-industrial-complex, with those buy my books, buy my videos and buy my local appearance ticket. I have been in the trenches since the Ku Klux Klan operated with impunity in broad daylight in the South Carolina Lowcountry, and I have never charged a dime. And I have never accepted any of the money folks have mailed to me for what I do. When money was mailed to me, I always mailed it back. The white supremacy-industrial-complex, black folks are supported by many white progressives, and these duped blacks think that such progressives are their friends. I appeared on a radio show back in year 2012 explaining how the progressives have hijacked the Democratic Party, while the Tea Party libertarians have hijacked the Republican Party. I further explained how progressives and libertarians share many of the hardcore hatred for the U.S. federal government's rules and regulations. Progressive darling Bernie Sanders proved my point in the fall of 2015, when during his U.S. presidential campaign, he spoke at the bigoted misogynist libertarian John Birch Society Evangelical Liberty University, pointing out how much progressives and libertarians have in common. Russia continues a program called Blackmanistan. It is a direct effort to recruit black gang members, black militants in the U.S., to train them abroad. Upon return to the U.S., these individuals are supposed to create chaos and havoc, especially in the Deep South. Sometimes when I appear on political talk radio shows, there will be callers who sound as individuals who have been influenced by Russian-targeted propaganda, as all they ever talk about is white supremacy. Meanwhile, this nation appears to be headed for a civil war and the white supremacy-industrial-complex. Black folks are contributing just as much as the so-called white supremacists, white folks. Semper Fi. Major Pain.
Hey everybody, thank you for watching the video. This is True Power is Mine. As always, live your life with integrity, without hate, without envy, and or greed. Peace. Also, support me on Patreon. Patreon /join/True Power is Mine. I'm out of here.